Hey, everybody, this is Chris and Rick Talk Guitars, man, and we're trying to overcome technical difficulties, which sucks, but we have a killer guest today, Liz Keller, guitar player for the Purrs here in Seattle and guitar tech extraordinaire at Emerald City Guitars. Say good morning, Liz.
Good morning, Liz.
Well, in our previous attempt to start this damn episode, we were trying to get a little more information about your tech gig with Nancy Wilson. So elaborate on that, man. That's such a cool gig. And I just thought it was so cool that you got that. So give us more details.
Well, it was kind of like a mega bucket list to check off. I mean, not that I ever thought I would ever end up in that position, but she's basically like my guitar hero. If it wasn't for her and, Anne as well, of course, I wouldn't be where I'm at today in my career and what I'm doing and playing music. And yeah, since I was like a little kid, growing up listening to them, fast forward to my teenage years and kind of really got to understand like what they're all about. And especially her as a guitar player from Seattle.
That's so
it was
cool.
Just like all the boxes checked. And I was like, oh my God, that's like, I want to be her when I grow up. And so the stars aligned, and it's kind of like one of those things, like subconsciously I've been preparing myself for this moment for 25 years, 30 years. And it just kind of all happened. Yeah. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
How did it happen? I'm kind of curious. So did she come in the shop at Emerald City?
No, but I mean, everybody in her band are homies of mine. So it's kind of like, so I've just through the music scene, you get to know people, and especially working in a guitar shop as a guitar tech, you've obviously, it's inevitable that you come across people that are in her circle. And there's been a couple of times where I've been hit up last minute, like her tech got COVID once, and it was like, you need to fly to LA today and like do gigs, but it just didn't, for whatever reason, it didn't pan out. Like they've got somebody else, and which is fine, because like it took the pressure off that one time, and I almost got the gig, but yeah, it's crazy. I don't know. I'm still processing it, but I didn't fuck up, so that's good.
Nice.
I don't think I did.
I recall very distinctly. I think it was down when we were both down at Emerald City one day, and I think there was a Guitar Player magazine that had Nancy Wilson on the front, and that's when you told me, you said, that's why I play guitar. That made me want to play guitar. And then when I heard you were teching for it, I'm like, that's so cool. That's like one of those Cinderella stories, as you mentioned, wanting to be in the presence of that person, as a guitar player, and then you ended up with her. And I just thought that was great.
Yeah, and she's so cool. Like she's so nice, like so like just cool. Like I met her a couple times, like 20 years ago, just briefly, just through like Ben Smith, her drummer. I've known him for 20 years, and I had the opportunity to go watch a full tech rehearsal with Hart and their crew at this like rented space in Auburn, which is where I'm from. And so, yeah, I got to watch the whole process of like how they get, the whole stage backdrop and everything, checking all the levels. And I was so nervous and such a nerd. I didn't really know what to say when the time came where I got to meet her, but she was super cool. And then I ran into her again at the NAMM show a couple years later, and just randomly in the Gibson booth. And she's like, have we met before? And I was like, I've clammed up, and I was like, no, I don't think so. Like, I don't know why I said that. I don't know why. Like, it just came over me, and it's been bothering me for 20 years. And anyway, so fast forward to last month when I got to do this gig. I didn't tell her that story, but maybe if we ever hang out again, I'll come clean. But yeah,
that's funny.
Yeah. But yeah, she was cool. She actually asked I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but she asked if I'd want to work with her again. And I'm like, yeah, sure.
Let me think about it.
Yeah. Let me think. Yeah. Let me check my calendar. I don't know.
That's so cool. So that band was essentially really your kind of touchstone in terms of really turning you on to music and guitar specifically.
Definitely a big one. Yeah.
That's
I think the Cranberries were another big one. I think that's what Dolores O'Riordan, she was like kind of the one that really kind of like kicked it into like, okay, I want to play guitar, even though, she's not like a particularly like shredding guitar player, but it got that bug in me that I wanted to do that. Like, I just wanted to like feel that feeling of like the strings in your hand, and just I don't know.
That's cool.
That's
Yeah.
So did you?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris. Go ahead, Chris.
I might be jumping ahead a little bit, but I was really interested in finding out, when did you feel the bug to start tinkering with guitars and teching and stuff like that? Did that come pretty early on, or was there?
No, that came when I started working at American Music.
Okay.
I started there in 2001, and back in the day, like there was a thing where it's like, if you buy a guitar here, you get free setups for life. And so I kind of got put into that position eventually, like, okay, well, somebody's got to do all the setups. And I just kind of had a knack for it. And, it's one of those things like where you want a guitar to play how you would want it to play. And so it's just like, okay, well, I've picked up some tips and tricks along the way from people, but for the most part, I just kind of like figured it out on my own, and I love it. It's like it's sometimes a challenge, depending on the piece of gear, but yeah, I love doing it. Like it's kind of like a Zen thing for me, making it play how you'd want it to play.
Right. That's super cool. And that's kind of the way that I came to it too. Sometime I just got really into it. And I mean, it used to be, I just ran into this last weekend, and you probably run into this from time to time now, is people are terrified of their truss rods. They're just like completely like frightened and will not touch, even think about the truss rod, or they're going to break their guitar. And it's like, I think for a lot of people, it's, that's the thing. It's like, and I was like that when I first started out. It's like, I can only have someone set this up. I don't want to dick with it because I don't want it to go out. I don't understand what I'm doing. But once you learn that, it's like so liberating. It's, it's like, now, and like you said, you touched on something very important. Only you know how you want your guitar to play, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a good tech will sit there and watch a person play and like listen and take notes. And then you can get it close. But really, the only person who can do it is the person who has the guitar. But I mean, I just always think that fear, I had this like thought that, if I was a conspiracy theorist, I would think it was probably big guitar tech that was making people afraid of their truss rods, so they have to go through tech. But
yeah,
I mean, just realistically, and this is what I told the person last weekend, I mean, you have to work really hard to destroy a truss rod, to break the nut or strip it. And people do, but when they do, it's from like just reefing on that thing. So it's
yeah.
I mean, it's pretty funny. That was a winded way of saying, I appreciate your path, because I was the same way. Got all kinds of books. And even down at Emerald City Guitar, I kind of did that for a while when I first was down there. I was kind of like a tech. Didn't do super deep things, but did a lot of like setups and, installations and things like that.
Yeah. Cool. That was the days when Jay was roasting sweet potatoes in the oven. That's
right. And the kid was out
there. That's so funny.
Yam fumes.
I love that. I love that story. That reminds me of this time when, speaking of truss rods, this guy like came into American Music one day with this acoustic guitar, like no case. He was just walked in with it, holding it by its neck, and he's like, "I need to get my thrust rod adjusted." I was like, "You mean your truss rod?" And he's like, "Yeah, I need to get my thrust rod adjusted."
That's hilarious.
I was like, "Wow, okay."
It probably did.
Yeah. Well, yes, it wasn't for me.
I'm one of those people that still is squeamish about truss rod adjustments. I don't know why. It's just, because you read all about, you just turn it like a quarter inch, or not a quarter inch, but a quarter of the way, and let it sit for an hour or whatever. And I don't know. It's always been a mystery to me. I've started to get a little more brave about it, but yeah. So I'm curious to know, like, when people come to have their guitar set up with you, how much time do you spend with them prior to setup, to kind of, like Chris was saying, to kind of get to know, okay, well, what is this person, how do they play? What would they like in terms of a setup?
I mean, actually, more often than not, it's usually one of the other guys like checking them in, like Joey or Matt or Nick.
Got it.
Like they're almost like the front lines, like, so they'll be the ones to check them in, and unless it's like very specific, tuning instructions or how they want the action set, like I'll just do like just kind of my general, just the general setup and standard tuning, whatever. Most of the time when people come in to drop it off, like they don't really know what they want. They just know that they need it to feel better. And I just kind of do that. And if when they come to pick it up, if they need any other tweaks or adjustments, then I'll handle it on the spot. If I'm there. It's kind of like almost like a like a sixth sense in a sense.
Cool.
if that makes sense.
No, it's a feel. It's a vibe.
Yeah, it's a feel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. It's like, I know, this neck has got a major wow in it,
Yeah.
like it needs to be cranked quite a bit. Like sometimes after like a full setup, it needs to settle a little bit. So
Yeah.
sometimes it might need a little bit of a follow-up tweak, but.
So I'm kind of curious to know about that. So for most setups, does it require a little bit of a truss rod adjustment, or does it? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I'm 95% of the time for sure. Like even if it's just like a minor, little tiny like I have a thing where I don't really have one of those things that can tell you. I just go by feel. Cool. There's a way that I basically finger like the 1st and the 15th fret, and then kind of touch it, on either side to see how the action's bouncing, and then scoot it up towards the butt end of the neck, just the same thing. And cool. you can see like if there's any sort of dip or back bow or whatever. Then you kind of get a sense of how far to crank the truss rod from there.
Cool.
Yeah, the sound that it makes when you tap up there.
Yeah.
Sometimes get it dialed in. It's like just give it a little bit of a high pitched sound.
Yeah.
You're there. Yeah, for me, I have a Telecaster that I actually bought in Emerald City. It's 1990. I haven't had to touch the truss rod since the late 90s. I mean, if some necks just stay, you know what I mean? They just like stay there. And other ones, like some of my Gibsons, every season, they'll need a little tweak here and there, one way or the other.
Yeah, probably something to be said with the wood, like if like something about the maple, like just like stays truer longer, where like mahogany is a little more loosey goosey.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious to know more about your journey as a guitar player. Like, so Heart and the Cranberries were kind of your two jams. Like, what was your first guitar you got? Was it an acoustic or an electric or?
Yeah, it was a Sigma acoustic.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I got it for Christmas. I think I was 13 or 14. Yeah, I'm not one for surprises. I like to be surprised. But my sister, she's 5 years younger than me. She was the snooper. Like she would always go around snooping in my parents' closet, and she was snooping this particular year, and she was so excited to like tell me something, and she's like, Liz. But she also knows that I don't, I like to be surprised, so she didn't want to give away the whole thing. She's like, I found a guitar case behind Mom and Dad's dresser. And then she's like, but that doesn't mean there's a guitar in it. So I was like,
probably machine
gun. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a, which I actually still have to this day. I still have it.
Cool.
I donated it to the Bush School. My friend of mine, she was the music director there for a lot of years, and I donated it to her class, and they played the shit out of it, and she just retired last year. So I actually got it back, which is
kind of
crazy.
Cool.
But yeah. But it sounds so good. Like it's just like a crappy plywood top, no frills, like just it's bare bones, but it sounds so good, and it still plays good. Like every year I would maintain all the instruments for her class, and it was like 20 guitars and various forms, electric, acoustic, bass, mandolin, whatever. And so I got to revisit it every year.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So, I guess I've maintained it through its journey. But
it's cool that they got to use it. And I mean, essentially you just leased it to them, and then now you have it back.
And they broke it in and put all this cool wind.
Oh, totally. Yeah. There's like so many like teenage schmutz DNA all over it, but
schmutz. So did you, when you were a teenager or in your early 20s, did you join bands or start bands, or what was your journey that way like, or how did it start?
Yeah, I had a couple of little bands in high school. Nothing, mostly just covers, like talent show stuff. But I think my first real band was this band, Ruby Dean the Snake Handlers. Jorge Harada, he's the lead guitar player in the band. He actually got a job working at American Music in the early 2000s, and he made me a bet, like whoever gets in a band first owes the other one sushi. And so he made a bet with me that, because he had just moved to Vegas and he was looking for gigs. I think he picked up a couple of gigs with like the Souvenirs, Canute Bell, just some other alt country acts, and started playing with them. And he gave me like a demo CD that they were putting together. There was like this heavy like acoustic guitar rhythm thing. And basically I asked Jorge, I was like, hey, like, do you want somebody to play acoustic guitar? And he's like, yeah. So I auditioned and basically joined the band and played with them for about 5 years. And that was like my first kind of real band, and did a couple of smaller things in between Snake Handlers, and then eventually joined the Purrs, which has been 13 years now going on.
So what are the Purrs up to these days? Are you guys recording a new album, or?
Yeah, we started a new album project pre-COVID, and then we went in last summer and did about half the album. We've been working with Johnny Sangster, he's like our fifth member, essentially. So we got half of it in the can. Hopefully in the next couple months, we're going to go back in and get another batch, about 5 or 6 songs that we're going to try to throw out there. And so maybe sometime next year, hopefully we'll have a product.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's exciting. I'm liking what we're doing. So yeah.
Do you guys, go ahead.
I was going to say, we just worked with Johnny Sangster last weekend.
Oh, awesome.
He's the best.
He is.
And that's the first time I worked in this new location. I guess it's probably not new to him anymore.
He's so great. He's so cool and easy and fast. Like he's all the good things.
I have yet to work with that cat. I want to.
I had a question related to basically just electric guitar. Are you still a fan of the Telecaster? Is that like your electric? Okay.
Yeah.
I knew it was last I talked to you, but I didn't. So is that the main? Do you have multiple Telecasters, or do you?
I have 3 at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah. My main one, as of the last couple of years, is it's a 75 Tele Custom. I think it's the Custom, the one with the humbucker in the neck.
Yep.
Is it the? Yeah. He came into the shop to Emerald City Guitars a couple of years ago. This guy needed to pay rent, and so Jay bought it from him. It was beat to shit. Like it had like sticker goo. It was like some punk rocker guitar. Like it was, the frets were just worn down to nothing, and the fingerboard was all pitted and black, and it was like somebody's nasty fingernails were just digging into that thing for years. But it had so much vibe, and it was totally like a player. Like there was nothing original on it. So for some reason it was vibing with me, and I worked out a deal with Jay and ended up buying it and had it refretted and had the pits on the fingerboard filled in so it's smooth again, and ended up eventually replacing the pickups because they were already replaced anyways. And I put the Eva pickups in them, in it, which are Eva. She's this gal who down in LA, married to this guy, Mike Cornwall, who's kind of an elusive, but like everybody knows him, guitar tech kind of guy. Anyway, she widens these pickups, and they're killer. They're kind of like, if you know, and cool. We actually have some at the shop that we're selling right now, but which I'm pretty excited about. They're cool. I don't know really how to describe them, but I guess one word I always say is they're very unforgiving, which is like makes you play better. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
In general, yeah.
Yeah. And they look cool. Like the neck pickup in particular, it's like not really like the size of it's kind of like the size of a mini humbucker or P90, but not quite. Kind of has the vibe of a gold foil, but I don't know. There's really no way to describe it.
Well, how did you come to the Tele? Because I mean, I came to the Tele late in my life. Like I didn't play Teles for years and years and years. And I'm just.
Yeah. I think it's just like the simplicity, but the versatility. Yeah. Like you can make them sound like a Les Paul if you dial them in just right. Cool. They just look cool. Like they're just like a slab of, it's just like a simple slab of wood.
Yeah.
And like you don't need any more. It's just it's just
It's so funny that you say that, because last weekend recording, I did most of the songs with my 345, but there were a couple of songs I wanted to play the Tele on, and I get in there, I set up the amp for the Tele, and I go and listen back, and I'm like, I just dial this in like a Gibson. It's like everything. But you're right. It's a very versatile guitar, and it's perfect. I mean, I think my favorite guitars are the Telecaster and the Les Paul Jr. because they're both just slabs.
Yes.
And I don't need the counter, the cuts like on a Strat or whatever. It's the perfect guitar. I mean, perfect weight, everything. And that's cool that you have 3 of them or 4 of them or how many.
Yeah. Actually, my next venture, if I can come across a vibey Les Paul or SG Junior, like then I'm set.
Does stuff come in very often that you just go, I gotta have that, and you have to talk yourself down? Like not really. Like that's good. That's a good place to be.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many crazy guitars that come through that it's like I don't have the mental capacity to really be like wow, it's like, yeah, like there's like some turds for sure. Like
Right.
like certain like those are more obvious than like the cool ones, if anything.
Right.
But and it's always the weird ones too that come around where I'm like, wow, like that thing is awesome.
Me too. Yeah.
There was this like weird. This is years ago at Emerald City. There was this guitar that it was sitting on the cheap wall. You know, when you first walk in on the left, like there's like the wall of kind of misfit, like under $500 guitars, and it was kind of like it was like part Teisco body with a different neck on it, and the ground wire for like was like this like thick, stupid wire that was like wrapped around the post of the stop bar tailpiece that wasn't original to the guitar, and it was funky. And finally one day I decided like I should throw some new strings on this thing and see what's up with it, and it was fucking awesome. Like it was like and it was like $150, and I was like, I didn't really have a place for it, so I didn't buy it, which now I'm kicking myself, but I was like, I'm gonna keep this guitar like a secret. And so like if there's some touring band that comes through, all like sleeping in the van, like some indie band or whatever, like that's like who this guitar is for.
That's cool.
So sure enough, like a couple years later, this young 20-something-year-old dudes come in and total like stinky pits and like the whole van life vibe, and it's like, dude, you guys need this guitar, and one of them bought it, and I was like, awesome. I was so excited to like sell it to those guys because it was like the perfect guitar for them. But yeah, I kind of wish I would have bought it.
Yeah, but I love that. I love that you kind of wanted to save it for somebody, for the right person, essentially. Yeah. Because like Chris said, that seems to be the invariable situation, or it seems inevitable that if you work at a store like that, something's going to come in that you're going to have to talk with Jay with, like, hey, dude, I can't live without this thing. But I think it's cool that you wanted to sell it to some touring musician, because I think that, because the whole vintage thing now is so, as we all know on this call, is so crazy. Like, even to get a junior now or a special or something is pricey. So yeah, it's cool when you find the little weird ones that somebody can bond with and play. That's super cool.
That was my favorite part about working down there, because I'm a horrible retail person. I have a hard time being out in front of the public for a long time.
Me too.
But I loved it. I was able to carry me a couple of years, just my love of the guitar. But one of the things I love the most is you get to know the customers and the clients, and something comes in and you go, oh, that's for that person. And you just like get to know people, or someone comes in and says, I want to get this sound. You're like, follow me. And you hook them up to the right gear to get that. And that was really rewarding and satisfying. So I appreciate that. But the rest of it, like, I took this 52 Telecaster home and played it for a while. It's not really speaking to me. Can I try Stratocaster? It's like, dude, it's not the guitar. It's not the guitar.
Yeah, totally. For sure.
I'd love to hear about the people who are a pain in the ass. You don't have to name names, but you work in a retail shop, and B, you do setups, so I'm sure you've got some stories about just like, because Chris and I always talk about that too. It's like somebody, the fucking E string is buzzing when I play the F. It's
guy.
Like,
yeah. Oh yeah. Yep.
How do you deal with that tactfully, or?
The thing that always cracked me up about that, it was always like the punk rocker who's like plays with so much
right, like, dude, you shouldn't care at all.
Doing your job, but it's like it's kind of buzzing here. It's like, oh, okay, all right, well, and then sometimes you would just like not do anything and give it back, and they're like, oh, that's so much.
Yeah, exactly. That's a subconscious, like they're just like, yeah, totally. Or like they'll show you like what's wrong with it, and they're like plucking the string so hard. It's like, and it's like, I ask them, I'm like, is this how you actually play? Like, no joke. I'm like, is this how you actually pluck your guitar? And they're always like, well, no. It's like, well, then what's the problem? Like, you're trying to make a point. It's like, you could pick up any guitar off the wall, and if you pluck the string like that, of course it's going to buzz and sound terrible. Because like, if that's your style of how you play, then there's the problem.
And that's another reason to do your own setups too, because once you do your own setups, you learn to live with it, because you're like, that's what you end up with. I mean, you set it up and you want a nice straight neck and really easy, that you have to play with a lighter touch. And when you start digging in, so you learn that that's what guitars do. You know what I mean? If you want less buzz, just like give it a little bit more relief or jack the action up, but you can't have everything. And that's
Or like, back on the subject of when a guitar comes in, like when we're in the check-in process, when we're writing up the ticket, like the particulars on the deal, like there's still like the classic, like, I want the action as low as possible with no buzz. Like, you remember that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've heard that too. That's like, insane.
Yeah.
Well, who
like,
doesn't? Yeah.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
Some things never change. That's really good to hear. I mean, it's like a universal thing. There could be like a movie made, like they made that movie about a record store. There could be a guitar store movie. And
oh, for sure. Yeah.
Are there any nightmare stories about just getting a guitar you didn't want to touch? Like
oh,
you
yeah.
mentioned before, like,
oh, yeah.
like a biohazard or something.
Yes. Yeah. If there's bodily fluids, like not just typical sweat, like I'm talking like blood and vomit. Like there's been, it's like, okay, this is where I draw the line. Actually, during the height of COVID, when people were, coming out of they have nothing better to do, like they dig their old guitar out of the closet. And so we were just like inundated with people bringing their guitars in to have refreshed and set up because, that they're going to pick up their hobby again. There was some nasty shit. Like, like that was like the worst period of time of like touching guitars that I've ever experienced in my whole life. Like it was like the amount of nasty, crusty guitars. Like we actually added an extra clean, like because of that price list for guitar work. We've actually added a line extra cleaning fee.
That's so weird. Were these punk rockers or were they just people? What? It's so strange to me that somebody would have such weird shit on their guitar.
That's
so
like it's, normal. Oh, I mean, what's normal, but
yeah,
people who probably like, work in an office, but I don't know.
Got it. Maybe they took it to the office party and everybody puked on it and left it in the corner. I just felt it's so weird though. It's so weird that like you're saying during COVID they would revisit this guitar and like open it and go, oh shit, maybe I should at least wipe it down or something before I take it into the heck or something.
Bodies are gross.
I know that sounds like such a neat part of your job, Liz, that you have to put up with boogers and bodily fluids, precious bodily fluids.
I never thought that that's like what I would be getting myself into, but yeah.
More than just trust, Rod. One thing I think is really cool, and I don't know whose idea this was, but I think it's a really great idea, is they have you sitting right out front. You have a little setup station out there. Are you still doing that?
Yeah.
And that's really cool because you get to interact with the customers, talk about stuff. Some of them, they get like little previews of stuff that's just coming in. You're like, look at this. And you get more excited. But it's really cool. It's helpful. I'm sure you give lots of good advice to people. I mean, I just think that's a really good idea to have you instead of like, I was always tucked back in Yam City where, where no one could see me, which I kind of liked because I didn't like people. But it's great when you can interact with that. I know that when I was down there doing the web stuff, we'd have like cool conversations about guitars and you'd show me shit that just came in. That was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm still a salesperson too. I kind of do like a little bit. I mean, Nick and Joey, like they're kind of like the frontline guys now, so to speak. It's like they're the heavy hitters. Well, obviously Trevor too. He's out in the field more these days. But yeah, like just like Nick and Joey are awesome. Like they're the first to. Okay, somebody wants to check out a guitar through an amp. Like it's like, hey, will you mind hooking this guy up? And they're like, yeah. So like, and they're super personable and. But yeah, I still do some of that as well, which I enjoy. I like talking to people. I never thought I would be that kind of person growing up because I was always reserved and shy. But yeah, I think working in retail in general has definitely like opened up my confidence levels of just talking to people.
That's cool. And that's I'm the same way. I think all of us on this call are introverts, essentially. I sure am. And like Chris was saying, I think that's kind of what has gotten me a little more out of my shell is just what Chris was talking about and what you were talking about, Liz, in terms of just doing it over and over again. But also just we're passionate about guitars and about that whole scene. So yeah, and I kind of dig when, like, one of my favorite things was some kid coming in with his dad, getting either his first guitar or his upgrade or something like that, and then you're like, oh, cool, yeah, let's hook this kid up, and so I think that's an interesting point because I think a lot of us are like that. I think most musicians I've met are introverts. And I think it's cool that you've kind of come out of your shell because you've just been there. You're kind of perched right there, right when people come in. And I know I love to hang out there and just bend your ear and annoy you and ask you questions about what's in your queue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool too, just doing this for so long. Like there's still people that I deal with on occasion that I sold them their first guitar, 20 years ago, and they're fully like rocking it,
That's awesome.
Like, and some of them are like in relatively successful bands, and yeah, it's kind of cool. It's cool to like see, how that started. This was like their dream. Whoever their Nancy Wilson was, like inspired them to want to pick up a guitar and play for the first time, and I got to be part of that journey for them. Like basically like planting the seed for them in a sense. Well, I guess the seed was already planted, but whatever phase of their journey of doing it, I
bet you that's part of the cool thing too, is building relationships, right? So like you said, some of these people you've probably known for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and they keep coming back. That's cool.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah. It's something I didn't really think about, you take for granted sometimes. That a lot of my lifelong friends are based around this industry.
Yeah.
Same. I mean, and Emerald City Guitars was the place for me where I met a lot of the people. I mean, I got in my first band from, being down there and, met a bunch of people that are to this day our friends through there, and I've been gone from for 20 years more. It's probably longer than that. When was it? I was there till like 99 or something. So however many years that is, but I still, and it was really interesting. Yeah, it's interesting going down there like later when I was going down there maybe like 6 years ago or whatever, just helping out. I would see people I hadn't seen like in 15 years from there. You know what I mean? It's so weird all these years later in the same environment where I used to see them like weekly. So it's pretty cool. It's a giant like family. You know what I mean? It's just like everybody knows everybody and helps everybody out. It's pretty cool.
It really is. Like Jay, man, that guy. I don't know. Like I can't say enough positive things about that guy. He's I'm getting.
I think we're all. Oh, Liz. Yeah, I think we're all on the same page. I mean, it's funny because when Chris and I have these discussions, invariably they all lead back to Emerald City Guitars, and it's fun because it is kind of a place you can go as a musician, and you can run into like-minded people, and you can just share your love of music and instruments in that environment. And it doesn't have to be Emerald City Guitars. It could be your favorite guitar shop. But that's what I love about just going down there. It's like, part of it is like a barber shop, just hanging out and annoying people and asking them silly questions. And then the other part is you're around this cool gear and these cool people. And it's just a fun place to hang out. And it's so cool that you're there and you do great work. And
thank you.
Yeah, it's just so great to know you. And thanks for chatting with us today, man. It's been so cool. And we'll have to do it again under better circumstances since our tech issues today. But you're a trooper. And we really appreciate it, Liz.
We'll have to get into the Mark Maron story.
Well, we got time. Let's talk about it now, man.
Yeah.
Give us the lowdown.
Okay. Height of COVID, pre-vaccinations, like everybody, common decency to just wear a mask everywhere,
Yeah.
So we get a ding dong at the gate. Oh, like literally and figuratively. A couple of ding dongs. So let me preface this. So we're like T-minus 5 minutes before the Guitar V is about to roll in. The Guitar V being Jay's RV, which they just got back from an LA trip where they picked up about 40 guitars, like a dozen or so amps, like all stuffed in this RV, like literally like amps, like in the shower in the RV, like, where else are you going to put them? So we blocked, we were doing appointment only at the time for obvious reasons. And so we basically blocked out like that hour or so window of time, like no appointments, like nobody's coming in, like this is what's up, unless you're coming in to pick up or drop off a repair or something. And so this group of people shows up to come in to pick up a guitar or drop off a guitar that they were getting some work done on, and follow up behind these other two dudes. and it's Mark Maron and Dean Del Rey, who's like his podcast homie / I don't know what he is, like hanger on, or I don't know. And so Matt goes to the door and kind of gives him the spiel. It's like, well, we're not really like letting anybody in right now, but if you want to come in, like you can take a pass through the shop, you know, but we're not really like, you know, we got a big load of stuff coming in, so we're not really set up to like plug in and let you jam or whatever.
Right.
I'm paraphrasing, but so they got the spiel, and so they walk in and Dean comes in with no mask on, and I'm like, hey, like, you mind putting on a mask? Like, thanks. And he's like, oh, the sign on the door said it's optional, which there's no such sign on the door. Like, so he begrudgingly put on a mask, and I'm like, okay. And so first thing, he walks straight up to the glass case with the bursts, and he's like, can I play that guitar? And I was like, haha, funny. And I didn't know who they were at the moment.
Right.
And I think I pretty much picked up on who Mark Maron was like right away, but I was like, you know, we were like, my mind wasn't focused on that. And so I'm like trying to explain, like, oh, no, like I can't, you know, I was like, are you joking with me? You know, in my mind.
Right.
And he's like, you got offended that I wouldn't pull out burst out of the case. It wasn't even like the $500,000 burst. It was like a $25,000 knockoff burst, but still, you know, 20, it's like, whatever. Yeah. And he's like, what? Like, how do you sell guitars if you don't let people play them? And it turned into this whole conversation of like, well, you know, here's the deal. And then Mark Maron like picked up on the heat of the conversation. He comes around and he's like, how do you know that we don't have that kind of money? And I'm like, you know, and I was like, and then he pulls his mask down so I could see his whole face. Like, don't you know who I am, kind of thing. And I'm like, right. And I was like, really? Like, is this how this is going? Like, what? Yeah. And then they left, and he just blasted us on his Instagram, and we got phone calls all day long, like his fanboys, like, why did you make Mark Maron mad? And it was just like, like, God.
Yeah.
So I tried, like, I even like reached out to him directly, like personally on Instagram. I'm like, hey dude, sorry, we got off on the wrong foot, but like, yeah, you know, duh. and he was like, you were nasty. And then he was doing a show at the Neptune that night. I wasn't there, but I have a lot of friends that went to that show. And the first 25 minutes of his show was all about the whole thing.
Oh my gosh.
He didn't, I don't think he named names, but it was obvious, you know?
Yeah, right.
And he did take the post down off of
good.
Instagram, which is good, but still, it's just like, man, you know,
the whole thing just made me think that as a culture, we just shouldn't have social media. You know what I mean? It's like that whole thing, the way that went down after that. And me, you know, I'm really knee jerk. As soon as I heard that, I'm like, Liz, you know, I'm team Liz. Let's burn down some houses or something. I'm thinking, wait a minute. I mean, there's so much shit that I've done in the past that if I was accountable for, I mean, I was an asshole at certain times. I feel bad about it now, but you know, stuff like that happens, all these things, and it just gets so blown up, and everybody it's just terrible. I mean, it's like, whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's good to hear your side of the story, because I kind of gathered that's what it was. But it didn't happen. And you know, if they really wanted to see a burst, if they were really serious and wanted to see a burst, that's the sort of thing that you set up for them to see. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
At a time when you can give them full attention and they can
absolutely, especially when they got the spiel when they first came in. It's like, we're not, you know, here's what's going on. Like,
exactly.
It was just poor timing, terrible timing. You know, we would have absolutely like pulled out the red carpet for him had we known, you know.
Yeah.
But it was just like the worst possible timing, you know.
Right.
And then he walks straight to the glass case and is like, I'm going to play that one. It's like, well, did you not just hear what Matt just like laid out for you? Just explained? Like,
what frustrates me too is just when the dust settles and everything is kind of done. Like, I think, you know, what cool people do usually is, you know, look inward and say, yeah, I was, you know, I could have handled that differently, because, you know, he should have thought about it too in the context of what you guys are dealing with. You got COVID, you got the shipment coming in, you know, I don't know at the time if you guys had the gate up or not, but just all the stuff you guys were going through, whether he knows it or not, it's like, what are these people going through that I should be aware of, or you know what I mean? Like just try to understand the whole context of what you're doing and or your situation, right? After the fact, and go,
read the room.
Read the room. Yeah. Read the room. And then also be self-reflective enough to say, oh, I was all probably, because he was probably all excited. He wanted to go to this store and see some cool guitars. And then he just fucking ruined it,
Yeah.
But after the fact, you hope a guy like that says, fuck, I fucked up. I think it was cool that he took the post down. I think it was the only thing he should have done. But I think after the fact, I think he should have reached out to you guys and said, hey man, I apologize. Let's try, can I come to the shop again and try it again? It sounds like he wasn't willing to do that. Yeah.
I mean, we're absolutely 100% welcoming, if he wants to come in again, which I don't know if he will, but like, absolutely. We'll go out of our way to make him feel special,
Exactly.
But it's like, but of all the people that come through there, like of a celebrity status, like that was like a one like icky moment.
Yeah.
It was like 99% of the people that come through that are the Billy Gibbons, Joe Walsh, cool as can be.
Yeah.
Like, why do you got to be like that?
I know.
Like,
well, like Chris was saying too, it pissed me off too, because we know you guys, we know what good people you are, and that you would never treat people the way he depicted it. It's like, and so that's what pissed me off. It's like, dude, you're portraying this in a completely, you don't even know these people, but the crew he has down there of you guys too, by the way, is the best crew he's ever had in that shop. And I've seen them all from day one, but including Chris should be a part of this group too, but he's not anymore, but you guys are fucking stellar. You're all good people. You're all knowledgeable, and you all give a shit, and it shows. So it's kind of fun for me just to be hanging out down there occasionally and working with you guys. But
yeah, I'm glad you're there. We're all glad you're there.
I'm so glad to be there.
So I guess,
anyway,
Mark Maron and that asshole from Bush are the most infamous.
Oh, you got a Bush story? No, do tell.
The only reason I remember it is because it was one of the first ever stars.
Is it the Gavin Rosdale guy?
I think that's what. This would have been in 97 or something.
Wow.
I wasn't even there. Someone working there was threw him out because he was being an asshole.
Oh,
kind of caused a little bit.
I've never heard the story.
There's I've had a lot of star sightings in there. I mean, you look up and holy shit, that's blah blah blah, and it's always gone super super smoothly. So it's like. It is. Yeah. I mean, the fact that they've been in business for that long and that there's only been 2, that's pretty good.
That is good.
Yeah. 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 I mean, it's like, it's kind of like a sanctuary. Like no matter who you are, whether you're just like Joe Schmo or Joe Walsh, it's like, it's a place where they can feel common ground and let their guard down and just, as it should be, it's not like it's like there's no reason to feel intimidated or feel elitist in any sense. And walking in there, at least that's how we try to keep the vibe.
Yeah. I think that's a great idea that you have there. Whether you're Joe Schmo or Joe Walsh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think that's a good note to wrap things up on. Yeah. Thanks so much, Liz.
It's
great to talk to you.
Hanging out with you guys.
And thanks so much for dealing with our technical woes. But we'll do it again too. We'll check it. We'll check back in with you too because it's fun. Chris, you're in charge of the stopping of the recordings.
Okay. Well,
for some reason,
say goodbye to all of our dedicated listeners. Okay. Goodbye, all of our listeners.
Goodbye.